I would like it to mean what it says on the tin, so that we live in a society where we're trying to be fair, we're trying to be honest, we're trying to have integrity, we're trying to live by our values.
It's about people like me and you and everybody else living their life in a way that makes sense to them, works for them.
I've worked in the social care system and the health service for 37 years now, and they're both good, and they've got a lot of good people, and there are good systems behind. But for me, social justice definitely means something different to the way services are delivered to vulnerable and disabled people at the moment.
It means giving people the chance to live the life that they choose and supporting them to do that. So it's not about a cookie cutter model that everybody has to be the same or live the same life.
I work with people with learning disabilities who continually are discriminated against and not given their rights in our society.
And I think I've seen lots of people with their rights taken off them, or actually not knowing what their rights are. And it's about actually making people aware.
ManCap often quotes, which is that 6 out of 10 people with a learning disability that live in residential services are living with people that they haven't chosen to live with, and that are being forced to live with people that don't want to live with. Now, I don't think that that's social justice.
Social justice at bottom is about everybody, kind of no matter what your circumstances, having the opportunity to actualise your potential.
Taking responsibility for each other, contributing to the community, and making sure that each other has enough.
Citizenship is not something that needs to be bestowed on anyone. That's our natural position. That's who we are.
It's about living in this world, really, isn't it? It's about living in this world in a way that's good and right and proper.
Really just for people to have a simple charter or a simple understanding, so that they know what their rights are, they know what they're entitled to, and at the moment the system simply doesn't provide that.
I think the idea of citizenship says that we, as well as sometimes needing support, also have a lot to contribute.
In our society, we've created systems to actually take citizenship off people. And really it's like a care manager or a social worker's role, or our role, to just help people find their place in society.
We need to be able to offer, as a society, true citizenship to everyone.
I think not everybody, particularly people with disabilities, haven't always had those rights as citizens to have what everybody else takes for granted. So it's good that somebody like the Centre is making the case for citizenship.
One of my favourite philosophers, Jeremy Waldron, summarised citizenship as being able to hold your head up high. And I think that's the kind of society we want to live in, one where everybody can hold their head up high, that they can live a life that makes sense to them with dignity, treated with respect by other people. I think it's the absolute vibrant core of any decent society that we behave as citizens and we treat other people as citizens.
Whether we like our families or not, whether we see them or not, we're all born into families. I would like to live in a society that goes with nature and supports our family unit rather than break them up in so many ways.
I suppose the thing that family bring to us when families are working well is identity. It's who we are. Often that's about confidence or about knowing what your place is in society.
In my experience, working for over 37 years in social and health care, the really good services that I've seen for people are ones that have been designed or directed by families.
I think transferring control and power to families means that they have more of a chance of saying, this is what I want my life to be like, and then we can provide the support they need to realise that.
We work with adults with learning disabilities, and by the time we work with people, they've had their childhood stripped out and turned into systems, and families have had to struggle. So we're working with the people that have had a really hard time of it. Whereas if it started when people were born and were given the information that they needed to be you know, to have the same lives as everybody else, that would make it a lot simpler, really.
It needs to be that people that provide services, whether it's a local authority, whether it's a professional service provider, they really need to recognise the expertise that is within families, not only recognise it, but actually act upon it as well.
People belong as units, as families, so if you're going to find an effective way of supporting an individual with problems, you need to look at the family.
The family is where things begin, isn't it? I mean, we know that without a good family around us, without love and support and security, everything starts going very badly wrong.
I think the ambition is to turn the ship around, as I understand it, or the telescope around, perhaps probably a better analogy, and actually instead of asking the state what they'll do for someone, it's asking the individual what they would like from the state.
What the centre has the potential to give to me is other individuals, organisations, people that are just trying to make a difference.
Well, I think the Centre for Welfare Reform is taking forward many ideas that have been brewing for a long time. Citizenship, the development and strengthening of communities, the building up of families and the recognition that families contribute to society.
It's a group largely made up of practitioners, so people who are really making change, not just thinking about it, but really out there doing it. And I think that is incredibly important. There aren't that many organisations that bring together people who are trying to make change in their communities across a whole range of areas.
I loved the way they were talking about it being I suppose I'd call a quiet revolution, really, because we ain't going there with placards and saying this is how it needs to be, but working, you know, the more people that are involved in it, the more kind of views there's going to be put into trying to reshape what happens.
And I think what I know of Simon as well, what really impresses me about Simon, he actually starts with the community, and he starts with to actually get the community involved. So his revolution starts inwardly.
The Centre for Welfare Reform is trying to build a better community for all of us by learning what it takes to build a better community. That might sound a bit funny, but I think we're kind of stuck where we are unless we're prepared to open our eyes, try new things, learn what those new things are and share them.
To modify the approach to benefits is an ambitious one. I think it's very, very difficult to know exactly how those goals will be achieved. But I think if you start with the individual and you work outwards, then that seems to me eminently sensible.
If the individuals in it give themselves wholeheartedly, and we see what happens. So thanks to Simon for giving us the chance.
It's an organisation that encourages people to contribute in different ways. It's got a broad leadership. I think those are the fundamental ingredients.
But I think its approach of doing things relatively quietly under the radar and waiting till we have something real to shout about, so we then engage the world on, is probably the way to go.
Quietly.
Yeah, no, I do. That really struck me a lot, because I think a lot of us we're not people that go shouting about things, or we quietly get on with what we do. You know, we work with the people that we work with. You know, within the organisation you work with the guys that you support. We'll do that well. Other people will then come and want to know how we do it, and it will ripple out.
People who are really practicing all of these, the principles around citizenship, around strengthening communities, and developing those principles in a very practical way, and giving real examples about how it can work and should work.
By bringing a group of interesting and dynamic people together to think about politics, to think about policy, to think about society, particularly with a view to how politics impinges on people who have the least.
I think the Centre would like to see some radical reforms of the whole welfare system, and I think we have some ideas about what they would look like. But how to win depends an awful lot on what the other side do, what the status quo does, what the system does. Does it want to play to? Does it want to learn to? Or does it want to fight? Does it want to resist? And it's very hard to tell at the moment how the next few years are going to play out.